Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. It is August the 19th, the 2020, and we are here live with all of you, loving the fact that we are with all of you. We have our guests with us, the normal panel. We have Kelly, our Qigong teacher, Louise, our author, and April, our psychic medium. She has a long resume, so I'm not going to go into her details. I'll call her a healer. And Eileen, of course, our the person that keeps us together. So let's get started. Welcome. An honor and a privilege to have all of you and everyone out there live. So last week when we were doing the Facebook Live, right before we went live, April had this question, and I will start with you trying to answer your own question, April. You said, when a person is sleeping, how does the spirit, like we kind of think that in that dreamless sleep state, that the spirit has left the body or is doing its traveling, right? Or in the ether. So how does that spirit know to come back to that body? Like how is April's spirit going to know how to come back to April's body? So did you want to say something more about it? I mean, it was a question, but then we went live, so we couldn't really discuss it. So let's discuss it live.
Sure.
Thank you.
And it's still happening to me, by the way. So that week in particular, I had been waking up several times during the night, and I was having a phenomenon where I was actually feeling myself kind of drop back in, right? Like I had been somewhere else and I was dropping back in, and I thought, why don't you just leave me on the other side? Why do you keep waking me up? Just let me just be over there. And I thought, what makes you come back? What makes you wake up like that? Come back into your body, into this consciousness? Because it's almost like when you're sleeping, it's almost like you're gone, you know? Have you ever woke up and felt like it takes you a minute to go, oh, okay, I'm awake, I'm here? So I'm not sure what the answer is to that question. I just know that it's still happening to me, and it's a very odd phenomenon. So if you guys have some suggestions, I'm open.
Thank you, April. Kelly, you want to talk about it? What do you think is the reason why the spirit comes back, since you've also done psychic medium kind of work before? Thank you.
Okay, so this is pretty broad ranging topic. My understanding from my personal experience really started when I was a kid and used to almost die because of my asthma, and I would wake up in a room with a couple other people, and I'd have conversations and I'd watch what was going on, and I'd ask them questions about what was going on and why. And from my own personal experiences, my own training, doing my own inner work, and I've been a lucid dreamer and a traveler my entire life. To me, that was very, very normal, and I didn't understand that it was not normal until I got to high school. I mean, I didn't really talk about it that much with my friends. I just thought it was normal, and my understanding and my personal belief is that the reason why your awareness and your consciousness comes back to your body is because your physical body is actually your soul being expressed in three-dimensional reality. So from my perspective, my opinion on this is that your awareness always recognizes your body, always knows where your body is and where and why, whether or not, because we are multidimensional beings. We are beings of energy. We are beings of consciousness and awareness. And we're sort of working our way through this limited 3D reality with our mental awareness and our projection of our idea of why things happen the way they do because of the limited information or the paradigm of not feeling as being normal. So once you get into a reality where you're more open to feeling and you've gone inside and you face some of your fears and your separation from your heart, and you're more in alignment with your heart and you've gotten used to feeling your heart and you can go inside anytime you want and make that connection. For me, it became very, very evident that our awareness always recognizes our physical anchor. I mean, we're essentially made out of stardust, right? All of the little particles between our molecules is basically stardust, you know, vibrating with energy to hold the molecular bonds. That's basic, you know, physics, quantum physics, whatever you want to call it. In my experience, even years ago, doing channeling and doing psychic healing work and stuff like that was a parallel to this. And the more I did Qigong and the more I learned some of the old Shaolin arts of healing, the more I became aware of, you know, my meridian system and the type of energetic stitching. You know, we were talking about sewing earlier, the energetic stitching that is present in our bodies that anchors all of our information. So there's certain practices that I've been very privileged to learn that really demonstrate this at a physical level, that our bodies are sort of like our anchor of our soul expression here and embody and encompass all of our information that we need to evolve spiritually and align with our heart. So from my understanding and my personal experience from having out of body experiences when I, you know, almost died from my asthma when I was a kid, plus all the meditation, all the other training, my understanding is that our awareness and our bodies are intrinsically linked, no matter how much traveling we do while we sleep or how much work we do while we sleep. I feel that the soul expression that our body is will always recognize our awareness, and our awareness will always recognize it. So that's why, and yeah, it's just like that feeling of like being dropped back into the body is kind of like going down a water slide. You know, sort of like that feeling of like being like suddenly like dropped and you're splashed home and you're like, oh, wait, hold on. One of the things that happens to me on a regular basis these days, and it's happened for a few years, and I've become more and more conscious of it, is actually like I'll wake up and I'll still feel that I'm on the other side or in both worlds at the same time, where I'll still be receiving information, I'll still be feeling that other space. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm like up, I need to like do my day, I need to like work and like go and do errands and do physio with my dad and stuff. It's like, can we just turn down the volume a little bit? And for me, it's a very physical experience. There's no thought involved, there's no there's no thought, there's no perception of an inkling of a whisper of a thought. It's such a big feeling. And it's just like, it's kind of like, you know, you go swimming in a lake or the ocean and you get back out onto the shore and you're wading through the water and slowly coming out of the water. That's, to me, that's what I experience almost every single morning. So from that perspective, it's, you know, again, your body's your soul expression. It'll always recognize your awareness, and your awareness will always recognize it.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly. Eileen, do you have something that it has come up on the topic?
No, I do not, but that was very interesting, Kelly. Very, very interesting. And it makes me think of some things that my son has said to me, and I don't quite understand. But thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't know why people wake up like 2 or 3 times a night, but I've noticed, April, that there are times that I'll go to bed, and when I wake up, it'll be 6 hours later, but it feels like 5 minutes. So what you're saying is correct. That the timelessness of it comes through. Louise, do you have something to say about this topic?
I agree totally with what Kelly was saying, and I also think that a little bit about what you were saying. Like, I don't really understand why we wake up in the middle of the night, but I do kind of have a feeling that it's to like alert us or give us a sign or tell us something, and so that's what I wanted to add to it.
And I kind of feel I am going to, I don't know if Karen Noel said this. I'll have to go through all the recordings and actually listen again. I am taking a course with Dr. Eben Alexander, who had a near-death experience. And today's topic, if people don't ask questions, is going to be around debunking death and demystifying death. So I'll keep bringing up the questions around it, because it's not just the physical form death, but the death of the ego, the death of the ego mind. So we can do a lot of versions of what is death. But what Karen Noel was saying is each person has a unique sound vibration. And that is what like the body would know, because the body has memory, right? The cells of the body have memory. So they're going to know that this is my unique sound vibration, and it brings back the spirit. But the more I know, I'll let y'all know, because they're going to go into that whole, there's some module, 3 or 4 modules down the road, which is on reincarnation. So I'll have more technical information by then. But that's what I think. And we do have a question. So I have a question. I understand we are not our body or our thoughts. How did the first thoughts arise then? Kelly, this seems to be your cup of tea. Go ahead. Thank
All right.
you.
First of all, I would disagree with the statement that we are not our bodies. Our bodies are molecules and vibration of stardust. And this goes back to literally scientists have proven that we have molecules from outside of our universe in our bodies. So we're talking about quantum entanglements and particle physics and all that other stuff. Things which require a great deal of mental analysis, and I'm not gonna try and dig myself into that because it would be really hard to dig myself out. I disagree that we are not our bodies, because everything is energy. And again, from my own personal experience of having out-of-body experiences when I was a kid, one of the things that I began to feel and understand is how, that tunnel that a lot of people like to talk about and that connection to the body, why does it go back to the body? Why do we come back to our body, right? Again, April, your initial question is perfect, because it reflects this connection that we have to the present moment. And my understanding of the present moment has always been through my body, not through my thoughts. And that's where my perception of reality comes from, is how much I can feel, and our minds cannot feel, our awareness cannot feel but through our bodies. All of our nervous system is physically in our bodies. This is how we feel and actually acquire information about reality, even though we have eyeballs, ears, and a brain to process information. If we go deep into our awareness and our present moment, we realize that we are ingesting and in connection with a tremendous amount of information that our body is registering. It's like going and sitting on a park bench or walking down a sandy beach. Everything, all of your senses are alive. Everything is interacting with your body on a physical level. So my answer to Lakshmi's question is that it has a lot more to do with the illusion and the triggers of the illusion that cause the first thoughts to arise. So if we were originally, you know, when we are born as babies, babies don't come out talking perfect, you know, languages. They have their own language of interacting with reality, and they have to learn how to communicate with the people around them. My personal opinion is that, you know, the first thoughts had, you know, more to do with the cultural environment or the societal environment that they were around, and the first thoughts probably had everything to do with concepts and paradigms of what people were interacting with in order to try and communicate outwardly with language. But I mean, that's just a guess. The real question that I would ask in response to this question is, why does it matter?
I think Travis said the same thing when there was a question asked, right? He said, that's like too much of asking a question that doesn't need to be asked.
Yep.
Kind of. But we're going to try and answer it. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for the explanation about knowing that our body is a vibration. Every cell of our body is vibrating. It's vibrational at the quantum level, at the atom and molecule level, that we are vibrational entities. So where did the thought come from?
Yep.
Luis?
I basically was thinking exactly when Kelly said that. I was like, huh, he just said what I was going to say, because I don't know about, I think that those were things that I thought a lot about, like before I started going deeper and deeper. And I feel like the more and more I go deeper, the less questions I have and the less importance there is to anything like that. Like, all I feel right now at this part of my journey that's important right now is this moment. So like all the questions that I struggled with or thought about or researched before really don't matter anymore. So.
Thank you, Luis. April, do you have any answers to, what is the question? How did the first thoughts arise then?
I think they're trying to say, if we are not our body, then how do these thoughts arise? That's what I think they're trying to say. And they're going off the teaching, where I think Eckhart is trying to say, you know, you're not just this body, you're not just these thoughts, you are consciousness. But this manifestation of the one, of the source, has a mind, has a thinking mind, which produces thoughts. That's what the mind does. That's what the brain does. It's a processing center. So where did the first thoughts come from? I think it's just for the fact of this human design, and that we have this brain that thinks about things, that considers things, wonders things. And if you want to go back to the beginning, you want to go back to caveman or even babies, think, because you've ever seen a baby sleeping and they're laughing. That's some sort of thought that they're having, right? And you wonder, well, what are they laughing about? They're 1 month old. How could they be laughing? So I also think, though, that Eckhart answered this question once when a guy said he wanted an original thought. And Eckhart reminded him that we don't just have our own thoughts, we also have a collective energy, the collective energy which gives us thoughts. So I think that's what the questioner is trying to understand is if I'm not my body, how do I have thoughts? And that's what I think so.
Thank you, April. That's a great way to look at it, that we have a collective mind as well. That's what Eckhart explains about it, right? I kind of feel that if you look back on how the evolution of like what the scriptures say, and Eckhart has alluded to it, that there used to be a golden age, right? And in the conscious manifestation course, Eckhart says at some point in time, humans are going to evolve to that extent that they won't even have to think. They'll just, something will arise and they will manifest, right? Star Trek has this, if you all are Star Trek trekkers here, there's a person called Q who does this, and he manifests a world, right? So Q is the epitome of what, if you want to visually see how or what Eckhart is talking about, that is Q in Star Trek. So, and I can kind of know of that truth. And I'm sure Kelly and April, because they're psychic mediums, there is a total different communication that happens at the telepathic level. We are not going deep enough. And that was the reason why I signed up for the course with Karen Noel with Sacred Acoustics, is I want to go deeper. Now that I understand presence, now I even want to go more into the infinite depths, because there are realms that we have not even explored. This 3D world is not just what is there. There is infinite possibilities to explore, right? So what are those possibilities? So what I think is that initial human didn't even have to think. That golden age, or what most religions, scriptures write about a golden age. During that golden age, whatever entity was human-like didn't even have to think. They were manifesting just because they existed, right? But then as we, the descent of the divine into matter, as we started to descend, then thought arose. And somebody said historically, 25,000 years ago, our brains changed, right? There's some certain change in our brains, and that caused the thinking to arise, language to arise. The moment language arises, right, and we have hands, then thoughts arise, right? Because language gives us words, and that gives us thoughts. But there is no, what April was saying about original thought, there is no original thought, because every thought that was thought is already in a database. There is no original thought. We are just thinking, recycling. That's the reincarnation, regurgitating thought. Thank you, April, for that tip. Mike says, in a space, what are your thoughts, and do most of us have it but don't realize it? Luis, you've done inner space, so you have to go first, and then we'll go around that circle.
Okay. Well, I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
He says, inner space, what are your thoughts, and do most of us have it but don't realize it? Do most of us have inner space? I think he means a presence.
Absolutely. That's something that I think everyone, well, I think everybody believes this, that it's we're born that way. Everybody has that. It's something that's we're all a part of, that we aren't a lot of times aware of it and don't understand it, and we make we have that these ideas and these things that are a part of us from generations and so forth. And so a lot of times it's not recognizable, but everybody absolutely has their self, their inner being, their presence. And it's just a matter of being able to tap into it. And you can even small bits throughout the day. And then as you start to feel it and experience it, then it can, it starts to grow.
Thank you. Thank you for the tip that it does exist. We just need to keep working through our presence practice, right? The
And
more we practice.
yeah, and I think understanding that it's a process. It takes time. I feel like a lot of people want things so instantly, and they're like, oh, it doesn't work, or I can't silence my mind. It was only 1 minute. Well, 1 minute's 1 minute, and it leads to 2 and 3, and so I think it's something to realize that it's a process and it's a commitment.
Commitment to keep up our practice.
Right. And I think it also allows other people, when you're staying in I notice when I do that, it's really amazing because you can see that other people change according to when you go inside. So like, for instance, when I start to get, riled up or whatever, and I go inside and I take this moment of silence, then I notice the kids' behavior changes, or my husband will change, or if I'm in the grocery store, the line will start moving, or whatever it is. So like, the more and more we go in and practice this, then the more and more the external changes.
Perfect tip that keep going deeper, keep seeking deeper depth in your presence, right? So
Yes.
thank you, Louise. April, did you want to talk about inner space, and does everyone have it?
Yes, I believe everyone has it. How do I want to explain this? So somebody that paints, and perhaps while they're painting, they have inner peace. Or somebody that likes to read or watch a movie or read a book, you can still have that inner peace. So I think we all absolutely have it. Spiritual inner peace, like for me, like she was saying, that was a commitment. I wanted that kind of peace. I wanted that kind of serene feeling. And then it takes commitment, and it takes, learning and desire. So, but yes, I believe we all absolutely have it.
Perfect. Thank you, April, for the validation. Kelly, did you want to talk about inner space?
Sure. Inner space is something that I feel everyone has, even animals. The animal kingdom just connects to it differently. Humans have the great privilege of being able to consciously build their connection and align with their inner space, or their heart space, as I like to refer to it. This for me, because of all my martial arts training, all my meditation, and some of the disciplines that I train, opens a huge huge filing cabinet. Inner space, yes. Short answer is absolutely. Some of the qigong that I teach, especially the standing stake, is all about connecting with that inner space and building that inner space and building that connection to your inner world and your heart alignment, so that you can feel more, so that you are stronger energetically and far more conscious energetically of everything that you're connected to, or the people around you, and everything that's going on inside of you emotionally and mentally, and why. And also the why of the why, and the origins of the why of the why of the why. It sort of is one of those things, as Louise perfectly said, that it's a commitment. It's one of those things where people can talk about it, But unless you've actually made a commitment to build that connection with yourself, people can only talk about it. And it's, for me, it's specifically a feeling space. It's a space that I connect to through feeling inside. It's really, for me, it's really hard to describe in words because it's a feeling. It's an understanding, it's a knowing that is not intellectual, but that is a physical feeling of understanding when I am actually connected with that inner space. And like even when I'm talking right now, I'm sort of in both spaces at the same time, where I'm feeling the earth beneath me, I'm talking and words are coming out of my mouth, and I'm observing the words coming out of my mouth at the same time that I am observing the connection to the earth below me and feeling the bones of my body while I'm talking. And it's yeah, it's for me, yeah, to me it's a given. It's been such a big part of my life, my entire life. Although until I sort of got into my 20s and started some of the training that I do now, I really did not have some of the words or the perspective that I do now. And the only reason why I have an understanding and the perspective that I do is because of my commitment to myself and my commitment to my practice and my commitment to going inside and building that stillness.
Thank you for that, Kelly. And I think there's a pull, right? Like our inner being is always pulling us. Like
Yes.
what Eckhart says, an outward movement and an inward. Like sleep is that you can be out of sleep for a couple of days, but the third day, that consciousness will pull away from you automatically. If not, you'll die, right? I don't know how many days a person can be alive without sleep. So Aline, did you want to talk about inner space?
I don't think I have anything additional to add on what it is, but I do know from personal experience that although I knew it existed, 9 months ago, 12 months ago, I couldn't get myself there. So even though like I knew it was in there, like I couldn't keep myself in there. But like Louise said, with that like repeated practice and commitment, I figured it out. And now like I can just go there. No issue whatsoever. So I'm definitely curious how, when this whole like staying home is over, how that will translate into my real world. But that's it.
Thank you, Aline. I think you'll bring that presence to your classroom as well, if you're doing
That
any
is my
in-person.
hope. I think so.
Mhm. I see a transformation, so I trust it. So Mike also says, with inner space, are we able to communicate telepathically more so and clearer than what we may be able to do currently? April, your cup of tea?
As you mentioned previous, on the other side, that's how we communicate. We communicate telepathically. It's instant, and it is almost it's a sense or a knowing or a feeling. You know what that other person is communicating. So when you connect to your higher self, you connect to your inner space. For me, communicating in that way without words is easier. It flows. And what was the second part of his question? He wanted to know if I lost it. Lost my train of thought.
Is that we're able to get there? Are we able to do that more and clearer than maybe we do at the moment?
I think it's, yeah, that I think what it becomes is it almost becomes, because everything is energy, it becomes a sensing of energy. You can sense the other person's energy. If they have inner peace, then it, like you were saying, it calms the other people down. You can bring it to your classroom, you can bring it to your husband, you can bring it to your kids. So it all becomes an energetic way of communicating. And if you have inner peace and you're practicing that and you are in your own space without the busy mind, then definitely it will increase and you can do it more.
Thank you, April. Louise, did you want to talk about inner space? Are we able to communicate telepathically more so and clearer than what we may be able to do currently?
I believe so, yes. I think that I've even experienced that even from the beginning. There's certain things that will happen when the more and more grounded and clearer you are, the more and more things happen. Like you'll think of someone and the phone will ring and they're calling you. Or, I'll go to tell my husband something and he'll say the exact same thing. And you start getting these connections with people, and it happens a lot more frequently the more and more you go inside and have these longer stretches of presence. So yes.
Thank you, Louise, for the confirmation. Kelly, you want to talk about telepathically? Do we do it more as we go deeper into inner space?
Sure. Short answer is yes. Longer answer, I'll try and keep this one short too. My personal experience has to do with two forms, again, of telepathic communication. Again, I completely agree with April that it's about feeling. When I used to meditate 3 hours a day and practice a lot of astral projection, it was very much an energetic thing. It was very much a mental space, very much a space of projection. And I spent about 1.5 years making my mom and my brother really angry because I'd always finish their sentences and sort of not let them speak. So that was an interesting learning experience. However, I also didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know that I wasn't actually aligned inside. I didn't understand that I was not actually connected to my body or connected to the earth. And the more I worked at stilling my mind and observing my mental spaces and my programming and breaking those programs and the mental habits, and the more I've gone inside and connected with my body, the more I've come to understand that it is not it's not about projection. It's still about being very energetically aware. And I firmly believe that, yes, with inner space comes a much greater degree of telepathy that is a combination of everything that people talk about, of synchronicity, finishing people's sentences, having a clear understanding of what someone is saying. And I personally feel that it's much more of a physical thing than we have understood up until now, really. And that the more people get into understanding how to be present, the more people will come to understand being able to read other people's energy and understand what they're on, what they're connecting with, what they're on the receiving end of. One of the byproducts of the standing stake Qigong that I teach is that you become very, very aware of your mind, and you become very, very aware of your body and the separation between the two. And you work at actually aligning and integrating both together so that you can feel your bones and you can feel the earth. And one of the things that happens is you become very, very conscious of your own energy, what it feels like in your body, so that when you are out in the world, you can understand what you're on the receiving end of from other people and their mental projections and the energy that they're holding in their bodies. Instead of even having to look for it, it's a natural reception of all of the information without even having to try. So again, the short answer is absolutely yes. And yeah, there's a lot more to it than just sort of being telepathic.
Thank you, Kelly. And the fact that insights and intuition are part of the telepathic communication, that you're getting the intuition from some other source. It's not actually from this world. I may know what Eileen is going to say on inner space and telepathic communication, but go ahead, Eileen.
I don't know what you think I'm going to say, but it's I'm sitting here like thinking about, of course, my son again. Um, it's funny because he's kind of always, we've said this since he was a baby and started using language. He's always like read people's minds. That's what we used to call it. We'd say, there he did it again. Because he would say something that hadn't been spoken, but he already knew. And you were like, well, how did you do that? You know? And he's been doing this all his life. He's over 11 years old now. And it wasn't until the last year and through this work with presence practice that like I learned more about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you totally do that. And it's funny because he started talking recently about, well, you also know that I can tell what's going to happen in the future too, right? And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I can, like, I just know things that they're going to happen and then they happen. And I'm like, okay, interesting. But something funny happened the other day. He says this all the time, but I never really paid much attention to it. He says, you're still talking. He's got an attitude, but he'll say, as if I'm saying something, he'll say, why are you still talking? And I'm like, just let me finish what I was going to say. And I'll go, but I already know. So why are you still talking? And it irritates every adult that he comes in contact with. But as I'm sitting here listening to Kelly and Louise and April speaking, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's not being mean. He's not being rude. He just
He
really,
just knows.
why are you, you don't have to say anything. Just move on. I know. Like,
Be honest.
yeah, honesty. Yes, he is very, but it just rubs people the wrong way. I'm like, he needs to have a long conversation with Kelly, apparently.
I was thinking Eileen was going to say it brings a lot of healing since she's done a lot of healing going
Oh, yes.
deeper.
Oh,
So that is the law of attraction. We kind of like then start to know what we are manifesting as law of attraction, right? What words, what vibrational energy. You become very, very conscious about this vibrational energy of mine is causing that person to be angry or that person to come to peace, or I need to shift my vibrational energy, just like Louise and April say, right? The more still I am, then everything around me calms down, as well as healing. So that's the power of that non-conceptual intelligence, as Eckhart calls it, being in conscious connection to source. So we were, I know we spent a lot of time on the question. Are there more questions, Eileen? I think we answered.
sorry, I'm muted. Lakshmi just wants to know if she can get the link for Kelly's Qigong again. But we'll have to do that in the group. Because I don't think I have that right
She's
here.
going to add it to her 10,000 steps at Qigong as well.
And then I'm going to copy over the next question that we have. Let's see. Mike says thank you. And Lakshmi wants to know, does healing ourselves help our kids? Yes. If they are grown up and away from the home.
I think we answered this question in the last Facebook Q&A, right? Somebody was asking, actually, Lakshmi or Sujata asked this question, right? Did Eckhart heal, if he healed his parents?
Yes.
He healed himself, did his parents, he caused healing for his parents. So I'm hoping we answered the question last time. Did y'all want to answer this question again? I think it's a repeat, right?
Well, it came up, I know it came up in a conversation between you and I outside the group, and it came up in a conversation between me and Ryan outside the group also. But I'm trying to remember if it was actually in the Q&A. Kelly would probably know best if it did.
What question? Do we heal
About healing the kids. Yes.
healing the kids? Okay, we will answer it then. I'll move the debunking and demystifying death. We'll do a little bit of it this week, but it is such a wide topic. We may take like 3 or 4 sessions on death. The reason why I wanted to focus on death is there are a couple of people on the Facebook group, the Power of the Presence Facebook group, that have lost young children meaning a son who's 20 or 30, and either lost that or they've lost all relationship with their children, right? Their adult children no longer speak to them, kind of, right? So then in group meditation, the same thing has happened. People have brought up their lost relatives, right? And not having peace, not being at peace. And me being from East India, we're very comfortable with death. So I want everybody to get as comfortable as I am with death, right? So I've sent everyone a lot of videos and everything, but I wanted to speak very clearly. And y'all are psychic mediums in the psychic realm, right? Like kind of give that perspective. Don't look at yourself in this form. So let's go with the question that Lakshmi is saying, can we heal our adult children? Kelly, go ahead and start. Thank you.
Short answer is absolutely yes. My own personal experience, the more that I've done my own internal work, the more my family has changed, the more balanced, the more solid they have gotten, the more they've moved through as well. My understanding of stepping out of the wheel of karma, when we stop our minds, when we still our minds and step into observation, that is how we end karma for ourselves. And because we have that blood energy, that blood connection with family, when we do it for ourselves, it ripples outward through everybody that we are connected with. I've seen this in action for 20 years. And when I change something and shift and let go of something, it's like clockwork. People in my family will be sick, or they'll have very, profound events in their lives happen. So yes, the short answer is absolutely. And the beautiful thing is you do not necessarily have to have a direct, conversation to explain everything and every little detail. When you're doing your own work and you get into your heart, my personal experience has been that people change. People respond. As it's been brought up earlier, people respond to the energy that you put out. The more that you heal yourself, the more you basically gift everyone around you with that space. And you do not actually have to say anything because it's all on an energetic level. It's all on a subconscious level. When you remove dense energy or thought patterns or heavy karmic issues from your system, everybody around you responds accordingly. And again, working closely with my mom and my brother for almost 30 years and watching it happen like clockwork, literally within a week of shifting or finally arriving at an understanding or a perspective where I can observe, a trauma that I've held on to and process through it and let it go. It's literally anywhere from like 3 days to a week. Boom, we'll have a deep conversation, or someone will get mad and blow up, or we'll have this amazing family dinner that no one thought would was going to happen, and suddenly it all falls together and we have this amazing time. And the experience I've had is that the healing and the reflection of the space that you're holding and the ripple effects through family when you let go of karma, when you step out of the karmic wheel, takes many different forms. There's no way to predict what's going to happen, because the only thing that you can take care of is your own heart space and your own energy and your own process, and letting go of pain or trauma or hurt that's embedded in the family. When you do it for yourself, my own experience is just like everyone has to go through it in their own way. But yeah, again, short answer is yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for that affirmation. April, did you have children of various ages? So did you want to speak?
This is the epitome of my journey. My journey was to heal myself in order to make sure that I healed my children, to heal family. This is exactly why I did this entire journey. So when I first had my children, now mind you, I had my first daughter very young. My mission was going to heal myself, and I was going to stop the generation of abuse of how it was. And by doing that, I have, in a sense, saved my children. But see, we all still have our life path. You're still going to have your life path. You're still going to have your lessons that you're going to have to learn for your own, I want to say involvement. I think that's not the right word, ascension. But also, I had an interesting thing happen just the other night. I was participating in a healing. And because everything is energy and everything is connected energetically, the person that was holding it said, I want you to include everybody, including your pets, your ex-husbands, your ex-wives. And my initial egoic thought was, well, why would I include the ex-husband? Right? And then it hit me. And now he is still here. He's not on the other side, but he's still here. And it hit me, and it said, because April, if you heal him, then it'll help him to get off of that karmic wheel. And then when he does come back next time in this lifetime, there won't be so much suffering that spread. So by healing ourselves, we not only heal our neighbor, our kids, but we heal the whole planet, because we are all energetically connected. And like Kelly said as well, you don't have to verbally, like I didn't call my ex-husband and say, hey, I sent you some healing, right? Didn't do that. But because it's energy, he's going to get it. And he's going to heal as well. And I think too that if you truly are on this path and you learn that everything that you went through is for a reason, you don't want anybody to hurt. You want everybody to heal. So the answer is absolutely. You can heal by healing yourself, you heal your children, and everybody else.
I'm taking a moment to soak all that in. That is a beautiful lesson, April, that no matter whether it was your ex or ex's grandmother or whoever verbally said something, whatever you were holding a resentment against, it doesn't matter. Everybody needs to heal, right? If 7 billion of us healed, then we would be at that golden age, right? Telepathically communicating with each other and having just unconditional love. So thank you for that. Louise, did you want to say something about healing children? Does my healing end up healing my children? Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like yes and no, because when we're speaking about adult children, and that is, I definitely believe that whatever we put out there, whatever love we send out, whatever healing we send out, it's reached because we're all one and it's one collective energy. But I also feel that we aren't responsible for anybody else's healing or what have you, only ourselves. So that by saying that, that doesn't make everybody healed. You know, like I send healing energy out to my daughter. I haven't seen her in 4 years. And, you know, she's unconsciously and unconscious and pursuing the path of drugs. And that's her path. And I can send her healing energy and love and whatever, but it's ultimately her decision. So I feel like it's a twofold thing that, yes, you know, we all are one. We all are one collective energy. What, you know, we feel it in the air when there's a lot of negativity or what have you, but we also can't, you know, take away what somebody's path is because that's their path and our path's our path. So that's how I see it.
Thank you, Louise. So everyone kind of agrees that there could be potential that when we heal, the other heals. Eileen, you want to say something with little kids?
Well, I know that I could say that considering Poonam has told me it's possible hundreds of times if I just focus on healing myself that I will heal my son as well. So it must be true, right? But I do think so. I do. And I know that I had a personal experience last week where I didn't even know that I needed healing. I didn't even know that this thing was an issue when it came up at a group session that I was in. And I ended up texting Poonam later because I was like, oh my gosh, like this thing happened 20 years ago. Well, one thing 40 years ago, and the other thing was 20 years ago. I said, and I haven't really thought about it too much. I know it's an issue, but, and I had the realization, and Poonam said the same thing, that because I was able to heal that, even though I didn't really understand that I needed to, that won't happen to my kids. That thing that runs in my family for 40 plus years, that stops with me. And so it's definitely possible.
Thank you, Eileen. Someday you have to share so that people can really understand what that was. But these are generational patterns that Eileen is alluding to. They're generational patterns of, so you may want to look at your kid, your grown kid, and see what is the generational pattern that they are continuing, or what is the past conditioning that they are continuing, which may be something like physical abuse or verbal abuse, this sexual abuse, there's addiction, right? But what I would say is we cannot, it is disempowering to say that our adult child cannot go get their own liberation, right? So think that the adult child should be able to get their own alignment with what Eckhart is pointing to is every 7 billion humans can get their alignment with inner beingness. They just need to work on it, right? So what Louise, you can envision is, or Lakshmi, you can envision is that your child is getting aligned in their inner beingness. Don't look at their what do you call it, characteristics, right? That's just their outer egoic dysfunction, the cultural dysfunction that has come in place, right? That this country puts a lot of stress on kids that people are already on, especially if they're like in their 20s and 30s, They're already sharing things on Facebook, on social media, comparing with each other. They've grown up comparing my looks and am I looking like Angelina Jolie or am I looking at like whoever, right, that they're comparing themselves with. And so there's a lot of living life through comparison in this country. So what I would say is don't look at your adult child, don't look at all their outward egoic characteristics. Envision them coming into alignment. Envision them in your stillness. Envision them coming into alignment with inner beingness, that my kid has infinite potential. Don't send healing energy, don't, and think of that for every human being right around you. Your ex-husband, like April says, everybody, that my ex-husband is coming in alignment with inner beingness. My son is coming in alignment with inner beingness. Or my daughter is coming into alignment with inner beingness. And that's the vision, right? That's the conscious manifestation. And maybe because of our depth of presence, we make them shift because it's all vibrational, right? Telepathic. Since we started this topic on telepathically, you're transmitting that to your daughter or son or whoever it is, that come into alignment, because their inner being is already pulling them, right? That's what we said, that inner being is already, your way out here, your inner being is pulling you back into alignment. Just get into alignment. And then you heal for generations on, right? Children, grandchildren, people around you. And not only do we do that for children, grandchildren, we do it for humanity. If we heal abuse in us, if 7 billion of us stop the abuse, the conditioned pattern of abuse would end on this earth. Like people talk about, Eckhart just talked about this racial discrimination, right? Racism. The 7 billion of us never thought of race and came, as Kelly says, as stardust beings, vibrational beings. Nobody would have race. We wouldn't see race, right? No identification. So the one last question I will ask is, let's get started on the debunking of death. What do you would think is the first question that people would have, Eileen, about death? What would you like answered?
Sorry, I was looking to see if we actually had any, but we don't. I think it's just that acceptance of those that are lost are not truly lost. So, you know, their form has, you know, moved on, but their spirit is still there. That's the thing that I feel like comes up the most, is that acceptance of, you know, they're not gone. And I know that's something that I'm trying to teach my own children as a way of being able to better cope with grief and death. Acceptance
Thank
of
you.
death.
Thank you, Eileen. So this is like a more Western culture kind of thing. Death is something foreign, right? Louise, did you want to speak about it? And then we'll go April and then Kelly.
One question that I feel that I tend to think about is when I read, like, I think on one of the posts, someone mentioned that their child, I think it was, or maybe I don't remember, but someone close to them was brutally killed. And
that's why I started this whole topic.
Yeah.
Because she's done it second time, right? So she's processing her grief through the Facebook group, and people are rising up and helping her. So I'm really grateful to the Facebook
Me too.
members.
And
Thank you.
It's been, you know, and that's a question I've had, is when people, you know, die in that type of manner, like, because most deaths you can understand and you go, well, it was their time, or they're not suffering anymore or whatever. But when it's somebody who's young or that's brutally killed, that's my question, like, what's that about?
April. Let's see. Here comes the answer. Thank you, Louise.
Okay. So this is the topic that I talk about often, not only in the
Your
psychic medium.
um
Can you hear me?
I think it's not clear for me.
It's going
How
in
about
now.
Clear?
it's going in and out. So
Uh-oh,
your
don't
headset,
start.
is it your headset or is it, can you
No.
speak on speak?
It should be okay.
Okay,
Can you
now
hear
it's
me?
good. Yeah, just stay
Okay.
like that and speak. Thank you.
Dave, I'm gonna freeze right here. No.
Yeah, no movement.
Okay. So I talk about this a lot in counseling and in the psychic medium world. So I'm going to explain the first one, that we don't actually die. Okay. And the way that I explain this is I try to make things really simple for people to understand. So because everything is energy, right? Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed, right? That's a universal law. We already know that, right? So if I have an ice cube, right? It's H2O. I take that ice cube and I melt it. I now have water. I have not got rid of the H2O. I have only transformed it. Now I boil that water. I now have steam. I still have H2O. So what happens when we die is we just change form. That's it. And the reason you can't see them is because the energy on the other side is too fast for the human eye to see. And that's why you look and you're like, did I see something? What? Nothing's there. You did see something. When you are on the other side, you can learn to slow your energy down to where we can see it. And then when it comes to the other part, so we don't die, we only change form because you can't kill energy. And then when it comes to why does somebody die when they're young? Again, it does not matter how you die. Okay? It can be murder, it can be death, it can be suicide, it can be heart attack, instant heart attack. You do not die before your time. If you are meant to go to the other side, it is your time, period. Now, when it comes to brutally murdered, what I have found is that is due to your life plan. That's your life plan. When we're on the other side, we are in a soul family. You're in a soul family and you make a contract and you say, okay, I'm going to go down and I'm going to learn this in this lifetime. But then we forget we have all these other souls that are added into this. And well, this soul, I really need to learn how to forgive. I need to learn what unconditional love is. And we come up with this plan. Well, I'm going to be your son. And so you can really learn forgiveness. I'm going to be murdered. Another soul comes along and says, I'll do it. I'll help you commit. I'll help you complete that karma. I'll do that. And I get the pain. I totally get the pain. I've had murder in my family. I've had suicide in my family. I really have. So I get the pain. But when you look at it from a bigger perspective, consciousness, bigger perspective, you see that even in the tragedies, there is purpose. So these are the things that I have learned myself through going through murder and suicide, and then also that I teach people. And when you come to accept that consciousness, the one, God, whatever you want to call it, does not make mistakes, and that we're all loved and we're all in on this together, then you get peace.
So if humans had that knowing that that soul actually did not take birth, so that 30-year-old son did not take birth for the fact that he would live until 89. So, we have a fixated mindset in the Western world that everybody has to take birth, they have to live really well and die at 80, 90 years old. Then it's a good death. And even then, when the grandmother or somebody dies at 80, 90, instead of saying that they lived a full life, it's okay. They are naturally, you put an apple on a table, it's going to decompose, right? That's what's happening to that physical impermanence of form. That's what Eckhart teaches, right? This is impermanence of form. So that is a beautiful way to look at it, that 30-year-old was not born just to live a full life. He was born to present the lesson of forgiveness so that the mother or whoever has that karmic attachment with that son or brother, daughter, whatever, they learn forgiveness, right? That's the karmic account between these two or group of souls, that this person will die to create the grief. The grief, how do you transcend? Because that requires transcendence too, right?
Yeah.
So the
Exactly.
acceptance comes from, now I'm going to take this suffering and transform the alchemy, transmute it into gold, which is consciousness, right? I'm going to use this grief. And that person on Facebook is not doing that. She's not consciously, we need to bring as a group, and I would, Lakshmi, Sujata, especially, people who are grounded, right? Join in and see if y'all can heal her, because I see her taking on the suffering and suffering some more, right? But when people are suffering that way, they're just remembering their own pain, and they're recalling their pain and reliving their pain. They're not actually suffering for that son, right? They're just reliving their pain, so staying in the grief. So they're not doing actually why the son, they're completely losing the purpose of why the son passed away, to present them the lesson of forgiveness and transcend. So that's why, Louise. I hope, I mean, that'll give the beginning of surrender, right, Eileen? It gives the
Oh,
beginning
yes.
feeling of why. So thank you, April, for that. Beautiful. Kelly?
Can I give you
Go
an
ahead.
extreme,
Sure.
my extreme example?
Uh-huh.
Everybody put your seatbelts on.
Hold on to the seatbelt.
When it comes to God teaching humanity lessons and us ascending and evolving and becoming one, and souls agreeing to do this, to teach us lessons, because we learn through our sadness, we learn through our grief. Unfortunately, we don't learn through rainbows. Until we're conscious, then we start learning through rainbows. Now, Hitler, myself as a human, don't even go there. Like, no word. As a soul, Hitler was a soul that said, I'll do it. And we are still learning from Hitler today. We are still learning. It is not okay to do that. It's not okay to segregate. It's not okay to kill people.
Mhm.
He gave us one of our biggest soul lessons. And that, I know that's a rough perception to look at, but
I have another perspective about it too, that'll like shock everyone, but we'll do it at some other time when people actually are very grounded. But that's beautiful, April. Thank you so much for that gift. Kelly, you wanted to add on to what April says, and I'm going to bring this up because we are just cutting the surface. We are just like tapping on the surface of death. And I really want to go deep into it because there've been too many people. There are 2 or 3 people on Facebook summon group meditation that keep bringing it up of processing the death of their loved one. And it's not like, oh, my partner passed away. It's like relatives, like the son that Louise is talking about, right? The person who
Yeah.
lost their son. Go ahead, Kelly. Thank you.
First of all, April very eloquently said, I completely agree with you about the soul contracts. I've been very lucky. Again, I'm a white male in a white male society where I know martial arts, so I'm pretty confident I haven't been on the receiving end of much violence. I have had family members and friends pass away. I've had friends commit suicide. And I'm a firm believer in soul contracts. I'm a firm believer in soul expression, and that two souls will have the kind of contract where we have this group of people that we're connected with. We're going to have this outwardly extreme event, and one of us is going to kill the other. And this is going to be a catalyst for a profound learning experience. And some of the people that I have been friends with who have had violence in their lives, who've been on the receiving end of violence, have, gotten incredible learning from their grief, from their sadness, from having to process through the violence that they're on the receiving end of, or that their family members have experienced. I mean, losing someone that you are, that you love, that you're close with, is never easy. And we're very much in a global society in general, or especially here in Western society, we have a very linear mentality and the propaganda of, well, you only live once, you got to have the best life, right, kind of thing, I find kind of boring and very irrelevant to my existence. I'm a firm believer in reincarnation, past lives, and karma, and the soul connections that people actually have. I have people in my life that I remember from past lives very clearly, and am very conscious of, some of the learning that I have to do with them, in terms of them offering me the learning of being triggered, of having profound anger and fury come up, and it having nothing to do with the external 3D reality, nothing to do with the present situation at all, which has caused me to really deeply reflect on the origins of those feelings. Again, I have not had, I do not have any children of my own. I've had family members that have passed away that I've been profoundly connected with, and I can still feel them. I can still feel them in my energy field, and it's a lot different after they've passed. And one of the things that I have learned from having, I was very close to all four of my grandparents. I grew up with them. I was exceptionally privileged to spend a great deal of time with them. Now, I'm trying not to cry here because I love my grandparents very, very much. And they're very, very supportive and loving in my life growing up as a child. And losing that space was really, really hard. But it also got me to see and let myself grieve and bring up an incredible amount of sadness that I've been holding on to, and process through and get through, and have a profound learning experience of how to actually let go, and how to actually use my grief and my sadness as the learning experience to move out of attachment, to actually let myself feel, and to not wallow and not get stuck in being attached to their past, or my past with my grandparents. Yeah, it is really, really hard when we're stuck in an emotion, and we're stuck in a feeling, especially when we have a sudden loss. And from my own understanding, and again, agreeing with what April said, is like souls have contracts. When you look at things from the greater perspective, from the perspective of cosmic alignment and the depth of the divine actually educating and supporting us in spiritual evolution, it really changes everything. And it really, for me, it really helped me understand how to see beyond the space of wallowing and the space of just wanting to use my pain as my identity and try and get people to validate my pain. Being able to look beyond my pain, being able to look at the greater picture, and being able to feel the connection that I had with my grandparents, and that I actually felt that it was still there. I mean, this is sort of one of those things where we're multidimensional beings and we have these connections with people, and energy doesn't die. As April, use the symbolic analogy of the ice cube and the water and evaporation. Energy just keeps moving. Energy, it's a universal law. Energy keeps moving. And the Hitler example is again perfect. It is that whole thing of where people come into our lives and we have these lessons. And our egos do not want us to look at the lessons that we are here to learn. It really doesn't. Our monkey mind wants to distract us, wants to stay worried about the outside world and all the shiny things we need and stuff like that, and keep us distracted from those connections with those souls that are here to actually help us learn great things and move beyond the limited attachment to the linear 3D world. And at a soul level, this is what's going on. This is the whole point of becoming aware, of learning how to be present so that you can feel the information that you are actually feeling with your heart in this soul connection with other souls, so that you can actually accept the information of the event, which is sometimes incredibly hard to do. But learning forgiveness and learning gratitude for the lessons that we are given is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to ourselves and to everyone around us. And to be able to be grateful for a connection, however brief, or even extreme or violent or joyful, is a different kind of perspective on why, instead of wallowing or staying attached to the pain of an event. And again, this is a big stumbling block for a lot of people, for people in general. And it's something that I had to go through an awful lot myself personally to understand and appreciate that soul connection and the lessons that I've been given from other people, to choose, instead of being in fear or grief or wallowing in sadness, to actually appreciate that I'm actually strong enough to step back into myself, into my heart, and observe the situation without being hijacked by my fear or my anger or my sadness or my grief.
Thank you, Kelly. I thought gratitude was supposed to be Eileen's pointer. She's always saying gratitude,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
That's her pointer. So I would say forgiveness and gratitude. So like April was saying, right? I think the soul's lesson, or what they are presenting to us, is move towards unconditional love, which is forgiveness and gratitude moves us back into unconditional love, right? Alignment with inner beingness implies unconditional love. The other thing I wanted to, if this gives people some liberation, I heard Dr. Eben Alexander, who had a near-death experience, say that if a person is passing away young, then that means that was an old soul. So imagine an old soul does not need that much of a lesson. They've already learned their lessons, right? So they're born and they pass away. And it can be like a 10-day-old baby. A lot of people have grief over their stillborn, or they have grief over a miscarriage, or they have grief over a newborn, young children. Those are the hardest. Just like Louise was saying, right? And this was a 30-year-old man. It wasn't a baby. So think about all the children that pass away, right? But that is just an old soul that came in, gave us the gift of their soul, and passed away. And whoever was around them, the lesson was offered, like April says. Aline, you want to add something to this? Does that allow you a little modicum of surrender, that was an old soul? It took its birth, offered its lesson, passed away. I know this is not Eckhart's teachings, but at least helps the formlessness or invisible presence, knowing of their presence, and that was what we absorbed, right? Their formlessness.
We have someone who's asking questions about young souls dying and about suicide, and so maybe I'll talk next time.
They're asking on
In the Facebook group.
okay, so we are going to record that portion next time because it has been it's an hour and a half. We've spoken for a very long time and it's late for Eileen. I'm going to be cognizant of that it's getting late for some areas. Honor and a privilege, everyone out there, and Kelly, Louise, and April, Eileen. The lessons were incredible today. So I hope it brings the intention is to bring abundance. Like the members need to bring abundance to themselves, and there are obstacles to that abundance. And these are obstacles, the grief, the conditioning that we have. So we are trying to break down your grief. We are trying to break down and open you up to infinite potential, telepathic communication, right? Insights and intuition, imagination. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to more of the lessons. Thank you, April. Thank you, Louise, Kelly, Eileen. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Many blessings. Much love. Bye.
Bye.